you have uncovered this link between change and experiencing happiness and joy in your life. And so many of us fear change. And yet, what you're finding is that our ability to change and pushing ourselves to change and experiencing new things in our life is foundational to you enjoying your life and having moments of joy. And so you've been researching something called habituation, which is a phenomenon that our brain naturally does. And it's also going to help us understand why pushing yourself to change and grow and learn new things is a critical part of your life and you enjoying your life. So can you tell us about habituation?
So habituation, it's really a fundamental process, our fundamental rule that governs how our brain works and every neuron in it. And it's basically our tendency to respond less and less and less to things that are constant or that change very gradually or are frequent. So for example, an easy example, you walk into a bakery, there's like the smell of the baked goods and the cake. And studies show that within 20 minutes, you cannot detect the smell any longer. The olfactory neurons in your brain stop responding because the smell is constant around you, right? So very fast, they will actually stop and you won't be able to smell it. You probably had this with perfume, right? When you first buy perfume and you put it on, it's really salient. Next day, a little bit less, third day, a little bit less. A month goes by and you can't smell your own perfume.
It's so true.
Yeah, so that's habituation. Or you jump into a pool, it's really cold, but you tend to get used to it. After a few minutes, it's less cold, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so just as you habituate to smells or to temperature, you also habituate to more complicated things in your life or in society. So for example, you get used to, there's a new romance, right? It's really exciting, but over time it gets less exciting, right? So you have less of a reaction, less of a physiological reaction, less of an emotional reaction, but you also get used to the bad stuff, breakup, right? You get used to that. There's less of a reaction to that. You get used to the view of the ocean and you get used to pollution too, meaning you're able to detect it less, you're able to see it even less.
Mm-hmm.
You get used to a new job, to a promotion. You react to that yet less. You habituate to that. You can habituate also to losing a job. And so because of habituation, we might have some great things in our life, like a loving relationship or a comfortable home or interesting job, but they don't elicit as much joy on a daily basis as you'd expect them to.
Just because you're used to it?
Right. Right. You don't notice them anymore, right? You could have a wonderful, comfortable home, which when you first bought it, you were so excited and you kind of really kind of noticed everything. But now you're there every day, right? So it doesn't elicit as much of a reaction. The same thing with a job. When you first got the job, you're like, oh, you're just amazed that you could do what you could do. But now you're doing it every day. You're doing it right. So it has less. It doesn't mean that people don't appreciate it at all, but less so over time. And it's a similar thing for the bad stuff in life. So there could be bad things around us, societal things like sexism or racism, or could be cracks in your personal relationships or inefficiencies in the workplace. But if they've been there for a long time, we stop noticing them. We just kind of get used to them and we stop. And if we stop noticing them, we're less motivated to change.
So how does this impact our happiness? Because it seems like it could have good and bad implications. And I think it's really interesting that your brain itself is reacting to something that you're getting used to. So it's not like you're some sort of jerk that's just zoning out. It's that your brain, in your words, this is habituation,
right?
That you're becoming really familiar with your partner or with where you work or your neighborhood. So how does this impact our happiness?
Well, it means that the good things around us can create less happiness, right, on a daily basis. So the stuff that's really good, and everyone has some good, stuff around us. Again, it could be a relationship. It could be a comfortable home, but those things don't elicit as much happiness. So that has a negative impact on our happiness.
Okay.
Right. However, on the flip side, if something bad happens, even if it's really, really bad, a loss of a loved one, we habituate to that as well. To the bad stuff in life, we habituate. And it could be a good thing because we don't want to feel like a breakup, right? We don't want to feel that pain that you feel at the very beginning. you want to habituate, right? So then you can move forward. So that's good.
That's
right?
very good.
But on the other hand, there could be some bad things that have been there for a long time, and they're kind of like in the background. And because of habituation, we don't really notice them. And that's not great, because then we are not motivated to change. And it turns out if you do notice and you try to change and you're successful, well, that will enhance your well-being and your happiness.
Well, I think that's what the thing that's super cool about your research is that there is a direct connection between the happiness and joy that you feel and the amount that you're willing to change.
Mm-hmm.
And what is happening in your brain when you experience something new?
Right. So really, our brain, you can think about it as a front page of a newspaper. It cares about what's new,
Okay.
right? What just happened. It doesn't really care that much about the old. And it makes sense, if you think about it like in an evolution kind of way and in, your ability to adapt. When something new is happening, your brain needs to process because maybe you need to react, right? Maybe it's like threatening. But after, it's been there for a while and you're fine, well, we really need to keep our resources. The neurons need to be ready for the next new thing that's coming. So we're ready to react to that. And so new is what we are noticing the most and what we're acting to the most. And just to give you kind of like a fun example.
Yeah.
I was working with a tourism company where they wanted to know what makes people happiest on vacation and when they're happiest on vacation. So we went to the resorts and we surveyed people and we asked them, hey, what was the best bit of the vacation? And there was one word that they repeated more than any other word, and it was first. The first view of the ocean, the first cocktail that I had, the first sandcastle that I built, right? The first was new and exciting. Now, the second view of the ocean, that was good too, but it wasn't quite as good as the first, right? And the second cocktail, fifth cocktail was quite good, but it wasn't good as the first cocktail. And that's because of habituation, right? We feel less. And the other interesting thing was when we just looked at the data and we wanted to see when were they the happiest, we found that they were happiest 40 free hours into a vacation. So 40 free hours gave you time to unpack and really focus on the fun. But from that point on, fun started dwindling, right, over time because we habituated. You were still happy on day 8, 7, 6, and 5, but not as happy as you were 40 free hours in, right? Because you have started to habituate to the environment, to the activities.
So how do we apply this research around vacations to our own life?
So I think it suggests that maybe we want to have more frequent vacations, but shorter ones, right? So instead of going away for a couple of weeks, you might actually go for a long weekend a few times. Now, sometimes it's not possible if you're going far, but what that means is you will have more of those 40 free hour peaks. You will have more of those firsts. And you know what else you will have? You will have the anticipation of the vacation. Because this is what I didn't tell you. I told you that the happiest time is 40 free hours into the vacation. But I didn't actually tell you that the really, really happiest time is a day before vacation. So there is a study that was conducted where people who were about to go on vacation were asked every day of the week before vacation how happy they were, every day of the vacation for a week how happy they were, and then every day of when they came back after vacation how happy they were. And it turns out that people are happiest before they even step on the plane. So the day before vacation, they're still in their office working on their computers, but in their mind, they're on vacation. And in their mind, it's quite wonderful. When they go on vacation, it is good, but it's not as good as it was in their mind the day before. The anticipation of good things is what really makes people happy. So if you have more vacations, you have more of those anticipations and you have more of the afterglow as well.
Well, you know what? There's huge implications if you take this even out of the context of vacations and you just say, what are things that I look forward to?
Right.
Whether it's a date on the calendar 8 months from now where I'm going to get together with my favorite family members, or it is some day that I'm taking off of work to take a class, or it is some cool thing like I'm going, it sounds kind of dumb, but I'm going on a walk this weekend with my husband, and it is a guided walk looking for owls. This must mean I'm in my 50s, but I am so excited for this thing. And so I can see how even just being proactive about putting things in your calendar out in the future to look forward to is a way to hack happiness in your life now.
Absolutely. I call these anticipatory events, right? These are events that we have on our calendar. They haven't happened yet, but they're making you happy at the moment. And in fact, this is why when you ask people about which is a favorite day of the week, people prefer Friday by far more than Sunday. Because Friday brings with this the anticipation of everything that they had planned for the weekend, whether it is, a hike to find owls or whatever it is, right? But Sunday, you might be out hiking and looking for owls, but you have the anxiety of the work week. So indeed, anticipation is something that's really, really important. And so have that holiday booked, have that activity booked. It can be, a night out. It could be a hike, very simple things, right? And that makes us happy at the moment.
What's so interesting about this research that I really like is that you got no choice in this. Like your brain is literally filing away information based on your familiarity with it. And so what is the implication for your relationship? Because as I'm sitting here listening to you talk about the research on vacation, which I think we can all relate to, I'm also thinking, oh, well, probably right around day 43 or week 43 as you're dating somebody and you're wondering, why is this person no longer being proactive? Why is this person no longer seeming to make an effort? Why is this no longer feeling as exciting? Is that habituation?
Yeah, so habituation has a lot to do with this, right? And in fact, so if you listen to Esther Perel, the well-known relationship expert, she did surveys and research where she asked people, hey, when were you most attracted to your partner? These are people who have been together for a while, married couples. And she found that they said two things. Either they said, I was most attracted to my partner when I went away and came back. Maybe I was like on a business trip. I was away for a weekend and I came back, right? Which makes perfect sense because what you're doing when you're leaving a situation and then coming back is you're dishabituating. What does dishabituating mean? It means that you removed that thing, right? You stepped out of the bakery for 10 minutes. Now you're coming back. Now your neurons are going to start responding. Maybe not as much as the very, very first that when you entered the bakery, but if there's a large enough break, then you dishabituate and you start responding, right? And that's the first thing she found. We have actually, so on the cover of our book, if you open it up, there's a little visual illusion, which is colors, clouds of colors, and a fixation point in the middle.
Right.
And if you fixate on that fixation point and you don't move your eyes at all, what happens is the colors suddenly become gray. And if you do it really, really well, actually it just becomes white. And why does that happen? Because the input to every specific neuron, if you're not moving your eyes, doesn't change. It's the same, right? The same colors are getting to the same exact neurons. And so the neurons at the beginning, they're like active. They're like color, color, color. But they're like, well, color's not changing. I'm going to stop responding. So now it's gray and finally it's white. All you need to do is move your eyes like that. Just move them for a second. And then the color immediately comes back because now different neurons are getting different signals. And now they're reacting again.
Okay, so we're putting this up on the screen for everyone who's watching on YouTube right now. And you're going to start by simply staring at the black plus sign in the middle of the page. And Dr. Tolley said we got to do it for 30 seconds. And just try to focus only on the black plus sign. And as you stare at the black plus sign, you're going to notice that the color fades away. It's crazy. But the second that you kind of adjust your eyes and look away for a second from the black, all the color comes rushing back. So I want you to keep watching it right now and see what happens. Just look at the black plus sign. Just a couple more seconds. Holy cow. That's crazy. So basically, that's habituation. When you stare at your spouse or your work or your life for too long, it goes gray. And that's why you got to shake things up to bring all the shimmer and the color back. So cool.
So that's dishabituation, right?
Gotcha.
That kind of same principle. Of course, like the actual neural mechanism is not exactly the same, but the principle is the same. Your partner's been there for a while. Everything's the same. We kind of like don't notice, don't respond, don't think. We leave for a bit, we come back, and now colors, right? So that's the first thing she found. And the second thing is related, which she found that people say they're most attracted to the partner when they're in a novel, new situation. For example, the partner is talking to some strangers, or the partner is on the stage doing something, right? And again, this is a form of dishabituation. You're seeing your partner in a different way because they are in a different circumstance. So now it's not the same old, right?
Yeah.
It's something new.
What is habituation?
It's basically our tendency to respond less and less and less to things that are constant or that change very gradually or are frequent. So for example, an easy example, you jump into a pool, it's really cold, but you tend to get used to it. After a few minutes, it's less cold. Why are people less happy in midlife?